Hello everyone, welcome to this video about some Django phrases that are not too difficult, some, I would say, foundational stuff to get into your fingers to start improvising like Django would. Coming right up. So this is actually episode 3 of a multi-part series in which I go through all interesting Django phrases from his legendary recordings in Rome. And I already made 2 episodes. The first one is also on YouTube. Find the link in the description. And the second episode was published on Patreon, only for my Patreon subscribers. If you want to be one of those subscribers, check the link in the description because I'm alternating these episodes, one for YouTube, one for Patreon. And if you are a member of my Patreon, you can download all the tabs I'm going to show you in the screen. And at the end, you get access to a PDF with all the phrases organized in a very neat way. So I titled this episode something like Easy Foundational Django Phrases, something like that. I have to still come up with some kind of clickbait title. But I was not lying. On purpose, I picked some phrases that are not too difficult and shows you some really basic Django ideas, right? Stuff that he was thinking about in his solos. I still found those phrases in the Rome solos, but I picked them out because of their not too complicated phrases. The phrases are not too complicated to play. So let's just get started with the first phrase. So the first phrase is a phrase for C major. And by the way, all the phrases, all the licks I've transcribed for all the episodes will be in C major, right? And then chords in C major like G7 or D7 or D minor. So that in the end, you can connect or see the connections between all the phrases very easily. So even though this phrase might come from a solo in a different key, I transposed it to C. So this phrase sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 1. So this phrase is based around a major 7 arpeggio, C major 7, C, E, G, B, and another thing is it ends on a 6, on this A, and both of those ideas are really very much connected to Django's language. So 3, 4, 1. Now, one thing you could do is extend it a little bit in the beginning. So you could, in front of this, you could, for instance, play E, G, so 3, and then you can start on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like that because this E is something I could find very easily, right? Because in my fretboard system, the Hemert system, I put a link to that system in the description. I mainly work from the low E string, the A string, and the high E string. So it's easy. It's good for me to have to connect a phrase like this, which doesn't start on one of those strings, to a note on one of those strings. So now I connect it to this E. So let me demonstrate this on the backing track, and I chose for today. I'm going to demonstrate everything on the standard Honeysuckle Rose, and it's a free backing track on my channel. I will link also to this backing track in the description. And of course that track is in F, so I have to play this in F. So then it would be here, 3, 4, 1, or with the 2 notes in front of it. So then I will start on A, 3, 4. And then the bridge will be 2, 5, 1 to B flat. So then I could play it in B flat. Okay, let me try that a little bit on Honeysuckle Rose. bridge. So I was also experimenting a little bit with the rhythms, right? You don't have to start this phrase exactly on beat 2. Maybe you start on another beat, or you connect something in front of it which makes this phrase not start on the second beat. But then you just use your ears and find a way to still make this phrase work in some way. So for instance, in the last time I played it, I had to kind of delay the last bar because I felt that it would sound better. So, but it's just experimenting with these phrases, kind of improvising with the phrases. Okay, let's go to the next phrase. Another foundational Django idea, that's to play blues on the major chord, but not with a blues scale or something, but something really guitaristic, which is when you have a minor third on a major chord, so in this case C major, so we play the E flat, and then we have this kind of fingering trick, right? So, and I'm playing it with 3 fingers, but you could play with 4 fingers too. I like the 3-finger thing here, just more comfortable for me. And then it sounds like this: 1, 2. Alright, that's just a resolution. It is about the first 6 notes, which you can repeat. It's really a Django thing to do. You could even bend those notes. It's also very Django. So if I have to play it in F, of course I have to start on the A flat. Or with the bends. Okay, let's try that on Honeysuckle Rose. So I played it in B flat too, right? And I played it here. Let me try it one more time and then do some bends so you can hear that. Of course, be free with the rhythms also. First play it like it's written here, and then be free and play with the idea. That's the point of all these phrases. Then I have a couple of dominant licks. So we're in C, so there will be licks for G7. This first one, let me first play it for you. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. It teaches you 2 things, I think, very interesting things. The first one is a very obvious one. It is a diminished arpeggio starting from the low B. So that's, in this example, in halfway bar 3. Right, so this diminished, you could say B diminished. That's something that's very usual in gypsy jazz, to play a diminished arpeggio on a dominant chord starting on the 3rd. So we're starting on the 3rd of G, that's B. Now the other thing two things you can learn. The first thing to learn is that we go down with the scale and we go up with arpeggio. That's something also very Django-like. Go down with this scalar phrase. Or go up with this diminished arpeggio. The other thing you could learn from it is this scale that Django is playing. Maybe you recognize the sound and you would call that Phrygian. We say, oh, this is Phrygian because it's basically an E flat major scale on top of G7. If we play an E flat major scale starting on the flat 6 of a chord, right? So let's say we have C7 and the flat 6 of C7 is A flat. So if we would play A flat major on C, that is the A flat major scale on C7, and we're playing a Phrygian sound. Now, the point I want to make is that Django is not thinking about a mode. Most people in jazz or let's say gypsy jazz are not thinking about modes. Django was just playing something that sounded good to him on G, and this is some kind of idea he had about C minor, I'm guessing. Also, maybe it's just a fingering that is very convenient, because of course he was playing with 2 fingers. Right, so a combination of those things made him play this scale. And it's interesting to not practice modes. If you practice a skill, not practice the skills, but to practice them in the context of a line. So that's why I'm showing you this. This is a very nice line consisting of a scale down and an arpeggio up, but I'm not practicing Phrygian per se. I'm just playing this fingering to create a nice line. I'm not sure I made myself clear, but I wanted to make the point that I think you shouldn't practice skills in isolation, especially when you want to learn Django's language, but to actually study the phrases. So this is a very nice example. So you can play this over a dominant going to both a C minor or a C major chord, right? There is no resolution, it's just a complete phrase for G7. So if you want to play it on Honeysuckle Rose, I have to play it on C7, so then it's here. So I'm just playing the fingering, right? I'm not thinking about the scale or like Phrygian scale or C Phrygian, or I'm not thinking about E diminished. I'm just thinking about this fingering I just learned. And then I resolve to F. So now combined with the first phrase we learned, for example. Now in the bridge, we have F7 to B flat. Now this phrase is much too long for F7, but I figured if we play the first 2 bars like triplets, maybe like that would probably fit. Let me try that a little bit. Again. Bridge. Yeah, if you're free with the rhythms, you can make it actually fit on a normal 2/5, like in the bridge of Honeysuckle Rose. Let's go to the next one. All right, this is a very pretty phrase too. Sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Sorry for the out of two strings. I really need to buy new strings, but I don't have them now, and I wanted to make a video. So this is a phrase consisting completely out of arpeggios. Also very Django thing, and the specific arpeggios are also very Django. It starts with a D minor arpeggio, going to F minor, going to C major. So he plays D minor arpeggio, F minor to C major. So he's basically playing F minor on top of G7, which is or D minor actually also on top of G7, which is a really typical Django sound. So if you have a G7 chord, you play a minor arpeggio from the 7 of that chord. So in this case it's G7, so the 7 is F, so F minor. Now of course I'm not thinking about that, I'm just thinking about specific fingerings I learned, just so you know where that sound comes from. Now I play it like this, right? Like this. You could also play it like this. Maybe it makes more sense, but again, then it would start on the D string. And oftentimes when it's a 5-1 or a 2-5-1, because of course you can play this phrase on top of a 2-5-1 as well, D minor 7, G7, C, I like to start with my pinky on the root of the 2 chord. So in this case, D minor. So that's why I put the D there. That just means I will find the phrase more often, because it's not often that I start a phrase with my first finger on the root of the 2 chord. That's just the way I play guitar. So if I have to play it on Honeysuckle Rose, then we have to play it on top of C7. So then I will play it with starting with my fourth finger on the G. And then the bridge, it's F7 to B flat. So then I would start my 4th finger on the C. Okay, let me try that. Again. Bridge. And you can start on the 3rd beat of a 2-5-1, or you can start on the 1st beat and just be too early with the resolution to see that really doesn't really matter. It will all sound good. Okay, here's another important concept of Django's language, is that to play a D minor 6 arpeggio on top of G7. So this is just one of the examples. I have 2 examples. This is the first one. It sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, wait, sorry. Yeah, 3, 4. 3, 4. So this specific fingering I'm taking, let's take something lower on the guitar, the same fingering, but because it's so out of tune. Let's say we play this phrase on C7, then it would be here. This fingering is a standard fingering we use in gypsy jazz for a G minor 6 arpeggio, right? We're in C7, so we're going to play G minor 6. That's the first one, and the second fingering is this one. That's the next phrase, but I want to show you already the 2 fingerings. And every lick that you encounter that uses this arpeggio, you should try both fingerings. So you can play this phrase starting with the fingering that's on the screen. Or you could do it like this. You can put the YouTube video on half speed if you want to figure that out, or you can wait until the next lick because it uses this fingering. So let's just play it with both fingerings. and it's the same notes, right? And that's for C7 to F. Then for F7 to B flat, it's here. Or okay, here we go. Again for the bridge, I made a mistake. Second A. Here we go. And then the last phrase for today, this one, again uses the same principle. It's a D minor 6 arpeggio, but now I put it low on the guitar because it uses the other fingering, and if we would it high, it would be really high. Oh, it would work, but I put it here. 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the resolution is not really important. It's more about the arpeggio, but the whole phrase again. Let me see if I play it correctly. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Of course, we could play with the other fingering too. We just couldn't play it low because it starts with the third finger and then we wouldn't have any more frets left. So let's play it on C7 to F with the fingering that's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Or the other fingering, 3, 4. Well, then we play it on F7 to B flat. Or backing track. So I try to use, I think, all the phrases that are in this document. Did I? I didn't play this one, this long Phrygian one. But that's, of course, the goal. You want to now start improvising using a combination of all these phrases. All right, maybe I would say make a combination of 4 of the ideas, and then try to come up with a solo. And in between, you can either play nothing, or you play something that you can already play, or play some chords. But the goal is to play these phrases in the most tasteful way you can. And of course, then you can also go back to the first episode and take those phrases. And if you're a patron of mine, you can go back to the second episode and take those phrases. In the end, it's not the point to play all the phrases all the time. The point is to just play them, see which phrases connect to you, maybe something you already know or something that you really like. And then in the end, something will remain from those phrases that is really suits your style, right? Even I cannot play all the phrases at the end of this series. I won't be able to use all the phrases during improvisation. That's not the point. The point is to study Django, and I only care about that work. I don't care about studying Django, care about transcribing it, I care about practicing all the phrases, but then what remains during an actual performance solo, I don't worry about that. I know some of this stuff will stick, and some other stuff won't stick. That just means that I wasn't ready for those phrases, or those phrases just didn't sit well with me, or they will come later. Only care about the work, not the result as much. The result will come. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you all for the next episode. Of course, episode 4 will be only for my patrons. Again, if you want to be a patron of mine, check the link in the description. And then episode 5, again, will be on YouTube for free. I was also reminded that I shouldn't only remind you to subscribe, which I always do with the little intro thing and the outro in a minute, but also remind you to hit the bell notification, because if you don't hit the little bell icon, actually YouTube won't remind you that I have a new video, and then you will miss parts of this series, and of course nobody wants that. So please subscribe, hit the bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!